welcome back to another episode of the Builder's Guide. And in our last episode, we went ahead and learned all about color theory. And my gosh, that was a big episode. So, yeah. Anyways, in today's episode, we're going to be going ahead and starting our first ever project of this series. Now, what is a project, might I say? Project in this series is going to be where we take what we learn. It's like these are fundamentals. We're going to be taking these fundamentals and we're going to be making a build out of them. And that is what a project in this series is. And we're going to be going ahead and over the course of the next couple of episodes, going ahead and learning more and more and more stuff and adding on to our build that we will be creating in this episode. So, in this episode, we'll just be taking shapes and figuring out our color palette, and that is it. And then over the course of the next couple of episodes, we're going to be adding to it. So we're going to add like rouge. We're going to start actually making it look good. We're going to be adding details. We're going to do the interior all across the next couple episodes. So stick around for that. Now, of course, this episode and, well, the next couple episodes are going to require a little bit of knowledge. And that knowledge can be found in episode 1 and episode 2, so I do highly recommend that you go ahead and check those videos out first before then coming back here and we can go ahead and start the project. But if you do need a little bit of refresher, I understand it's been about 2 weeks since I have recorded, so let's go ahead and give you a little bit of a refresher. Alright, first up, shapes. This is your refresher for shapes. So we have a cube, bigger cube. We have our rectangular prism, which is just a stretched cube, which is basically just taller. We have our square-based pyramid right here, which is made up of smaller and smaller squares stacked up on top of each other. We have our circle, which you simply make by going 3, block 3, block 3, block 3. You can make bigger circles out there, so there are guides out there and pictures that show you how to do that. Cylinder, pretty simple. It's just one of those stacked up with a flat face on the top and bottom. Cone, it's just smaller and smaller and smaller circles being stacked up on top of each other, but slowly getting stretched in the middle. And then we have our sphere, which is just like circles, multiple circles, like all on each side, and then just round it off, and that's how you make that. Alright, this is color theory refresher. We have hue, which is the color. We have value, which is how bright the color is. So, for example, this is much darker than this color right here. We have saturation, which is how vibrant the color is. So, as you can see, this yellow wall is more vibrant than this potent sulfur here. We have a monochromatic gradient here, which goes from white to dark. We have a hue gradient, which basically just nicely goes ahead and transitions between 2 or more colors. For example, here, this one goes from red to yellow. So there you go, that's your hue gradient. We have our saturation gradient, which goes from our not very saturated color all the way to incredibly saturated. We have our primary colors, yellow, blue, and red. We have our secondary colors, which are green, orange, and purple. And also one thing to note is that mixing one of those together will actually make a secondary color. Then we have our tertiary colors, which are made up of mixing one of these 2 colors, and that gives us every other color possible on the color wheel. Next up, we have our warm colors. These colors feel warm, that is why they're called warm colors. These are our cool colors. These colors here make you feel cold. We have contrast. Here's an example of contrast. We have I'm probably going to butcher these names again, but an analogous color thing. We have a monochromatic. We have our triadic, which, by the way, you probably recognize. These are the same as your primary colors. They are triadic, which it actually forms a triangle on the color wheel. This is a tetratic color thing. So here you go. This is actually called a rectangle or a square tetratic. And these are some examples of some color palettes here. So this is for a path, and this would be for a house. So there you go. Now you're all caught up with what we learned in the last couple episodes, episode 1 and episode 2. Now we can go ahead and get started with this episode. Now, before we do begin the project, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, as that really does help me out. And by the way, you guys have been crazy. Thank you so much for your support lately. 400 views already on the last episode, which was episode 2, which we talked about color theory. Absolute insane. Thank you guys so much. And yeah, let's get into it. Alright, so we are going to be going ahead and starting our project. Now, how do I start a build generally? Now, this is where you're going to come out of your comfort zone a little bit. I know most of you probably build oak boxes and things like just straight cubes and rectangle and cuboid. Like, come on now. We can stretch it. Come out of your comfort zone a little bit. So, here's what we're going to do. So, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to start off. I always do this. I go ahead and just build a little bit of a box. Like this. Just 2D right now. Like that. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to see and figure out. Like, okay, I want this to be a little bit longer. I think this is a little too short. There we go. That's a little bit better, isn't it? There we go. Now what we're going to do, we're going to think, okay, maybe we can go ahead and bring this out a little bit. This can come out a bit, and we can break that. There we go. So that comes out a little bit. Let's say, oh, I want to have a little bit of, like, I don't know, a rounded chimney here. Like, ready? We can do that. There we go. Like that. Look how cool that is. And then we can copy it over on this side as well, so we can go like that and go like that, and there we go. Look at that. So this is generally what I like to do, is I like to start off with a box and then slowly figure out how, what shapes do I want to add to it. Like, for example, here you can see there's another shape. Here's another rectangle right here, and here, look, here's the start of like an oval looking thing right here, and it's the same on the other side. There's another one right here. So as you can see, this is part of becoming a good builder, is you gotta get out of your comfort zone, especially when it comes to building. If you don't come out of your comfort zone, you're just not gonna get good. You're gonna find it hard, you're gonna give up. And yeah, you're gonna feel really bad about yourself. You're gonna be thinking, why is this not working? Why can't I do it? That is why. Get out of your comfort zone. You can do it. Trust me. Alrighty. So now what we can do, now we've got our sheep, we can go ahead and we can just increase this a little bit. So we can just increase this to, say, I don't know, this height. Well, actually, I might do it as 4 because I can do the roof after that. But we're going to be going ahead and starting off by just bringing this up a little bit. So let's do that. Alright, there we go. I've now gone ahead and increased the height of this. As you can now see, you can really now see the shapes of it. We can see a bit of a main box here, and then we got like another little like box thing right over here. We've got like a circle here, but it's just been like cut out a little bit. Like this side has been cut out and merged with the box. And there's another one over here. There's another one over there. And there you go. Now you can see all the shapes. So now the next thing we gotta do is figure out the roof line of this. So what kind of roof do I want? Well, this is where we're gonna go ahead and learn something new. So, first things first, when I think of a build, I want to go ahead and make a nice organic looking roof. Like a roof that actually fits the build. How do I do that? Well, for starters, let's go ahead and learn a whole bunch of different roofs. The first type of roof is, well, simply just this. You've probably seen this in the shapes video, and I actually mentioned it, but this is actually the most simplest type of roof that you could possibly make. It's literally pretty much just a triangle kind of thing. And it just goes up to a point. Like this. Look at that. There you go. That's a nice looking roof right there. Another roof design that you could go is, well, this one. There you go. There's another roof design for you. So this one is a little bit of an arch, and it actually looks really good when it comes to, like this part right here. Like, I think I might do that there. I think that will look really good there. And those are the two types of roofs that I typically use in a build. There are more, but I mean, that's pretty much it for how to do roofs typically. By more, I generally mean by like some really weird, quirky looking roofs, like round roofs and stuff like that. To make a round roof, you typically just make in a box. So like, I mean, not a box, just making a circle. Like, let me just do that right now. Like, that's what a round roof looks like that I was just talking about. Kind of like that. I don't really use that. You can also use a cone as well, which there's an example of right over there, so you can use that as well. But this is basically the core roofs, these two that you'll use typically. But you can also use this one and a cone on top of like towers and things. Like, let me come over here and I'll show you an example. Alright, you probably recognize this from the shapes, the first episode of the Builder's Guide. This is actually the thumbnail build thing that I made for it. And as you can see, we have, look at the roofs right here, right? So we got this roof that I was talking about, which I built over there, that sort of round arch looking roof. We have like a triangle kind of roof here, as you can see. And then on top of like a tower, for example, you use like a cone or like a round sort of roof. So that's what I mean by like roofs typically. And this is pretty much what we're doing in this episode, is just figuring this out and then figuring out the palette and doing that. And that's about it. Because the next episode, we're going to be adding on to this, and we're going to be adding all the exterior details. So those are things like your little pot plants, your windows, your doors, those sort of things. So that's next episode, but we'll get into that next episode. But yeah, that's an example right there of what I meant. So now that I have gone ahead and shown you a couple examples of roofs and, well, what we are doing, we can now go ahead and actually build the roofs on our little build here. Now, me personally, I'm actually going to go ahead. I'm going to start off with one of those roofs that I actually just mentioned. I'm going to go ahead and do this. Now, over here, I would actually like it to go around. So I'm actually just going to straight up do this. So let me just go around like this. There we go. That looks good. And what I'm actually going to do is, as you can see, we got like this. I'm going to do this like that. And then we're just going to go ahead and sort of make a roundish roof. It's kind of like that, and then we're going to add that onto it as well. So it's basically a merge of those two together. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. I'm going to go quickly build this, and then I'll bring you guys back in after I'm done. Alrighty, and there we have it. We have ourselves a beautiful roof that I've just applied to our little build right here. And, yeah, it's really nice. I quite like it. I think it matches the build perfectly. And yeah, we can move on to the next stage, which is actually going to be going ahead and adding more to it. Now, this is what I do. Of course, you don't have to do it. It's always up to you. But me personally, I feel like this build deserves a second floor. So how do we do that? Well, I can already see that there's actually a spot where a second floor would actually be nice, and that is right here. Do you see this spot right here? You probably can't see it, but let me just outline that for you. Alright, I think you now can see it. I mean, of course you can, because there's the lapis. But as you can see now this is the perfect spot, I think, for a second floor. So how do we do this? Well, we find a nice flat area that we think looks good in terms of like a nice area to put a second floor. We typically don't want something that's like this. This is a little bit, you know, roundish. It's not really great for a second floor as such. We want something that's nice and big and flat and open, that it just makes sense to add a second floor to. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to outline it like exactly what I did. And now we're just going to increase the height exactly like how we did before. We're going to increase the height. Find another spot to expand it out. We can probably expand it out here. This is actually a pretty good spot to expand it out, I must say. Look at this. There we go. Expand it out right here. Break the interior wall. And then we break through the bottom floor here. Alright, and now we just have to tidy up this bottom area. So, typically how I do it is I just go find the walls, and we're just gonna break it. Like this. There we go. Now we just add more to it. Oh, I didn't actually break this part, but there we go. Lower it down a little bit more. Like so. And there we go. That is our second floor done. And then all we have to do is just do the same thing what we did before. Add our roof. And there we go. We have ourselves a top floor, as you can see. And, well, that is pretty much all of the shape work figured out. Now, typically what I also want to do is I do want to add a chimney. But this is the bulk of the shape work done. I'm just going to quickly add a chimney, and here's how I do it. I just go ahead and grab diamond blocks. These are the blocks that I like to use for shaping stuff out. And they will be replaced a little later, but what we can do is we can actually come up here, and I just want to add a chimney right here, so we can just add that there. Yeah. Actually, I feel like this should actually go up by like that. Yeah, that looks good. Actually, we could probably bring it down by one more. Yep, that looks good. I think that helped it out a lot. Alrighty, so the next stage in our project is, well, we've got all the shape work done. The shapes are done. We've got the shape. The shape has been figured out. We now know what the shape looks like. The next hour is the color theory part. So we need to pick out a color palette. Now, what do I want this thing to look like? Now, this is a really hard thing to really understand unless you know exactly what you're building. For example, I want to turn this into like a little bit of a bakery, so we need to pick out a color palette that sort of matches that bakery sort of vibe. So here's what I do. I go ahead and search up like bakeries and stuff like that. So for example, for this type of bakery, I would go ahead and search up like Minecraft Village Bakery, look at a whole bunch of examples, and, well, go ahead and sort of combine them and figure out what I like from each build, and then go ahead and make my own palette. Now, that's how I do it. You could, of course, do it in your own special way. Everyone's unique. Everyone has a different build style, and that's my build style. I was going ahead and searching stuff up for inspiration for color palettes. Now, for this build, I'm actually going to be going ahead and leaning into more of the spruce and the oak. And then I'm going to go ahead and use some jungle blocks here for more of the oven here, which is over here. I totally didn't forget what that was and almost called it a kiln. It's completely fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Alright, so let's go ahead and make our color palette. So, for example, I want to go ahead and I think I might like, you know, some of these blocks. So let's grab some of these out. Let's go grab some of those out. We can also include some of that. Include some of that. And then I also want some of this. So we can get some of that. We can get some of that. There we go. We can then go ahead and place our color palette. Like so. So now we have all of the parts that we like. So for the walls, I'm thinking more of this tone, but I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm thinking of doing something like this. So we're going to go ahead and grab these 2 blocks, and I'm thinking, what if we just did, like, I don't know, something like this, where we have, like, I don't know, something like that. We can add in some, like, spruce, like, accents here. Yeah, I think that's gonna look good. We can also add in, you know, for, like, the kiln, we can go, like, yeah, you can kind of see it. This is my vision. Alright, so this is just the bulk color palette for this build. We still don't know what do we want the roof to look like. Well, the roof, I'm thinking more of maybe like some hay bales. So let's grab, I don't know, some hay. Now, of course, bamboo always looks great when it comes to hay, like a hay looking roof. So we can go ahead and grab some of that. Let's grab some hay. Where is hay? Where's hay? Hang on, I have to search for it. Hay. There we go. We can go ahead and use some hay for our roof. So that'll be our nice roof design there. We can also, we're going to need some windows. Now, we're going to focus on windows and doors and things later on. But that's for next episode. We'll focus on that. So I'm actually not going to include it in our color palette as of right now. Another thing that I do need to include is possibly, like, I don't know, you know how they have, like, they typically have, like, a bakery kind of, like, checker pattern here. Like, we can include one of those in there. So let's go ahead and add that to our color palette right here. Let me actually move this over by one. Here. There we go. We can go ahead and add that to it. And that is pretty much the color palette that I'm going to go for. We can actually probably include some mud in that as well. But that right there is the bulk of my color palette that I am going to go for. Let me go add some mud to that. So now what we have to do is add on to it. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to go ahead and build what I said. So let's go ahead, let's add some of this, let's go add some of this, and I'm just going to go ahead, and I'm just going to come along here and replace it all with my desired, like, color palette here. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, and after a little bit of replacing of some blocks later, about half an hour to be exact, we have ourselves a nice build right now. Now, it isn't done. You may think, okay, that looks like a finish, but no, it is not. That is nowhere near finished. We've just gone ahead and added all of our color palettes. We went ahead and shaped it out, picked out our color palette, and then applied the color palette to it. And I went ahead for the roof. I decided to go for like a thatch roof. So to add more to that, I went ahead and added a whole bunch of slabs everywhere, and I think that kind of helped it out a little bit more. And I also went ahead and added our color palette that we picked out there onto here. Now, this is one thing. I actually haven't gotten into this yet, but this is called texturing. When you're adding in blocks into like a main block set. So like, let's say, like the main block in the roof is this bamboo planks right here, right? Well, what we did was we added a similar looking block, say like, for example, this hay bale here, and the slabs, and we kind of just went ahead and just placed it randomly throughout the roof, and it just adds a little bit extra to it to make it look a little bit better. And you can also see right here, I did the same thing. I added, like, we've got the jungle log, the strip jungle log, we have the mud brick, the packed mud, the jungle planks, and we have all of that in there, and that kind of just adds a little bit more interesting, makes it just look a little bit more interesting to look at rather than just one plain color. And that's the power of texturing. If you go ahead and texture and add texture to your builds, which is this, it just makes your build look 10 times better. So, yeah. Now, that is actually going to be it for this part of our project. In our next episode, we're going to be going ahead and looking at all of the exterior little details, such as like chimneys, windows, doors, little planter boxes. Like, we're going to implement the undercover part of it. I don't really know what they're called, but it looks kind of cool. We're going to add that to it. And yeah, that's what we're going to be going ahead and adding and learning about in our next episode. So stay tuned for that one. If you aren't subscribed, please go ahead and consider subscribing. Not actually many of you are subscribed. In actual fact, I think about 90% of you around that are not subscribed. So click that subscribe button, so that way you don't miss the next episode of this series. And yeah. Hopefully it won't be 8 days like the last one. I'm going to try and get it out a little bit fast, the next one out a little bit faster next week. So, yeah. Thank you all so much for watching, and I shall catch you all in the next one.